Hi, I'm Kira Banks. Welcome back to the Sexism Challenge. This time we'll be tackling feminism, womanism, and intersectionality. We're talking feminism, womanism, and intersectionality because, well, those are actually the keys to dismantle sexism. But so often we just throw the terms around and we don't really know what they mean. If you've been along the ride with us, you're ready to dive into these terms because you've tackled your own gender socialization, understanding gender and sex are not binary and are seen on a spectrum, and started to understand how you perpetuate some of the biases that keep sexism going. If you're just joining us, welcome. You can feel free to catch up on the earlier challenges or jump in and ask questions in the comments. Feminism. Feminism is the fight for equal rights for men and women. That's simple. Womanism is a way of thinking that highlights the natural, inherent talents and contributions of women, but centers Black women and women who are marginalized in terms of race, class, and gender. Womanism was born out of the lived experience of Black women and is basically an example of intersectionality. Intersectionality is the ways in which our social identities overlap and intersect to shape our experiences. One example is the women's suffrage movement, where white women were pushing for their right to vote and telling Black women to march in the back and wait for their turn for the right to vote. Some people would say true feminism is inclusive of multiple identities, but it hasn't lived up to that, so that's where womanism comes into play. Womanism was developed to center the lives of people who are marginalized in terms of gender, race, and class. The term was coined by Alice Walker and was also inspired by the work of Black feminists, historically the Black women of the Combahee River Collective, and many women who lived at the intersections. The argument is, if you center Black women and dismantle all the systems of oppression that impact their lives, we all get free. Whether you claim to be a feminist or a womanist, it's important to realize that solving sexism doesn't happen just because we focus narrowly on gender, that it requires that we're inclusive of other identities. Research has also found that if we can think intersectionally, that actually can help our development across different identities. So for example, I did a research study where I looked at people who had traditional feminist beliefs and people who had inclusive feminist beliefs. And those who had more inclusive feminist beliefs, that actually helped them be more developed in their racial identity. So it's not just about, oh, it's a nice thing to be inclusive. It actually can spur your own development across different social identities. So your challenge for this week is to pick one topic that you think is just about gender and see it from an intersectional lens. Understand how it impacts people differently on the basis of race, class, and gender. I'll give you an example. When we talk about abortion, we typically think about that as a women's rights issue. Well, the reality is that it impacts women differently on the basis of race and class. And so you can easily search up reproductive justice, or you can look at the story of Purvi Patel in Indiana, that people who are women of color and are poor are disproportionately impacted not only by access, but also are more likely to be criminalized when it comes to reproductive rights. Pick that or any topic, but dig deep to try to understand how we can't just think about feminism as a women's only issue. And we can't get trapped in the historical white middle class ideas of what feminism should serve. We've got to understand the intersections and how race, class, and gender impact people's lived experience. Let's get to work and come back next segment where we'll continue to complicate what it means to understand sexism and how we dismantle it. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time on the Sexism Challenge.